If I were to pose to you the question of what single life-changing invention comes to mind as to something that really affected your life, what would you say? If you've ever been a young parent, I'm going to hazard a guess that perhaps the invention that might come to mind relatively quickly would be the disposable diaper. And today I'd like to tell you the story of the woman who created the idea and the forerunner of that disposable diaper. She was a woman named Marion Donovan. She was raised by a father who was an inventor. They lived in South Bend, Indiana, and her father and his twin had come up with the creation of an industrial lathe. They successfully manufactured this lathe and set up a factory to run it, and that was a wonderfully successful business for them. Now, Marion, unfortunately, had a bad experience as a child. Her mother died when she was 7 years old. So Marion was raised by a single parent, her father, obviously, and so often when she would finish school, she would go down to the factory and meet him there. She'd do homework or whatever, or follow him around, and in the process of that, he always encouraged her curiosity, and he also gave her a can-do spirit toward problem solving. So those were the qualities that Marion left South Bend, Indiana with. She went on to college, she graduated and moved to New York City. She got a job as an assistant beauty editor at Vogue magazine, and from there she happened to meet a young man named James Donovan. He was a leather importer. They married, they moved to Westport, Connecticut, and eventually they started having children. And that was when Marion's inventor gene kicked in. She started seeing a lot of things around the home and involving children that just needed improvement. Life was more difficult than it needed to be, beginning with the baby's diaper changing. She described putting her children down for naps, and if they took a long nap, when she woke them up, chances were that they had leaked through their cloth diaper, leaked through their outfit, and leaked through the bedding in the crib. So she got the baby up, got the baby dry and changed, but her job had only just begun. She still had to do a laundry with the clothing, get the bedding changed and ready for the next time the crib was going to be used, and she just was intent on the fact that there had to be a way to create a leak-proof diaper. Now the story goes that she happened to go into her own bathroom and see the shower curtain, and so she cut a panel out of it. I don't know if that's actually true, but what she did work with initially was the shower curtain type of fabric. She sat down at her sewing machine and started working on different ways to create this leak-proof diaper. She came up with the hourglass type of design so that it would more tightly fit around the baby's legs, really working on what would be good. In the process of experimenting, she also figured out that the shower curtain fabric was just too heavy and it kept too much moisture in. She soon switched to parachute fabric, which, as you know, is lighter, it's softer, and it breathes, so there was less chance that the baby would get diaper rash if this was held close to their skin for a period of time. Now, once she was satisfied with the product, she started making the rounds to diaper companies, and she was able to get the meetings and display to them the invention she had come up with. She also suggested that they include a paper liner instead of the cloth diaper liner she was working with, because she thought it would be fully disposable and even better at that time. But nobody wanted to license this idea from her, so she did what her father would want her to do. She took matters into her own hand. She started visiting different places to see where she might be able to sell the product. Once she was assured of some sales, she set up a factory, and one of the places that accepted her product was that fashionable department store, Saks Fifth Avenue. She got it into the store, and from there the consumers did the rest. The boater diapers started flying out of the stores. As a matter of fact, she got a letter from the president of Saks Fifth Avenue saying to her, "It is not often that a new innovation in the infants' wear field goes over with the immediate success of your boaters." So certainly she had hit a chord and was very successful at it. In the process, of course, her father had taught her the ins and outs of all the invention process. She'd applied for, and by 1951 had received 4 separate patents on the diaper invention that she'd come up with. And so at that point she thought, well, I'm really ready to go on with something else. She sold her company to a company called Kiko Corporation that made other types of infant wear, and they paid her $1 million at that time, what would be $9 million in today's dollars. And so she had a good nest egg with which to work. She was still intent on the process of trying to find someone who would do a paper diapers. She started setting up meetings with paper companies, but she was meeting with all men. She always got the meeting, but everybody thought paper diapers just aren't necessary. So Marion poked at this idea over a period of 10 years, but in the meantime, she wasn't going to just sit back and do nothing. She enrolled in Yale Architecture School, graduated in 1957 as one of 3 women in her class, and went on to be a consultant for a lot of home design companies who were creating items for the home. In the process, she also went on with her own inventions. She won a couple, she had a total of 20 different patents, but one of the things that she invented was called the Zippity-Doo, and it was an elastic cord that you would hook into your zipper in the back of your dress, and you could use that cord to pull up and thereby zip your dress unaided. Another thing she came out with was probably early in the days of being taught that people were being taught to floss their teeth, and it was a dental loop, and it was a seesaw type of device that held the dental floss, and again was a really good idea for the time. But now I've lost that thread on the disposable diaper and want to go back and tell you what happened on that. Procter & Gamble was the first company to successfully market a disposable diaper here in this country. And the way that they went about it was this. In 1957, they had purchased the Charmin Paper Company, and they had on staff a chemical engineer by the name of Victor Mills, and they assigned to him the process of trying to create more paper products so they'd have more things to do with the Charmin Paper Company. Victor Mills was not only a chemical engineer, but he was also a grandfather, and I guess he'd had a lot of experience at changing diapers and maybe even doing the laundry, because one of the ideas he hit upon was the idea of this disposable diaper. Now, we don't know that Marion ever met with him, but certainly by this time the idea of a paper diaper was very much in the air. So Victor Mills sets his team on the process of trying to create the right paper diaper, and the result selling by 1961 was Pampers, a name we all know from diapering days. So that kind of concludes what happened there, but we mustn't forget about Marion. Marion was still very much acknowledged as a successful inventor, and just this year, 2015, she was inducted into the Inventors Hall of Fame. So all's well, and it ended happily.